when young people come to you and they have a passion for learning and they invite you to join, I'm the kind of person who has to say yes. And that's why I found myself last June on a Saturday morning at early o'clock, 7 a.m., driving to Dardentow Park in the mist. And when I got there, kids were already gathered with teachers, with their principal, their assistant principal, the media, and me. Why? This group of young people, powered by what I call 1x2 female leadership, 2 young girls in middle school had decided that year that they wanted more than anything to fly a high-altitude balloon to the edge of the atmosphere. So they went out and they recruited other students, they got their teacher involved, they got funding to be able to take this project on, and they worked all year on it as a team. And there they were on a Saturday morning. School was just about ready to be out, getting ready to put that balloon up. So I show up, and I have with me my cell phone camera, and I'm documenting images and video, and watching these kids get to work. And what they're doing is that they're assembling all the final pieces of this apparatus together. GoPro camera, they had an Arduino-powered tracking system, they had loaded apps onto their cell phones to track, and actually did that for me while I was standing there. And they also had to get the balloon ready and call 4 different air traffic control centers from Cho to Washington, D.C. So these guys, they get it ready and they start to put it up. We're all gathered around the adults, and as the balloon starts to rise, we all cheer. And the balloon goes up, and we're watching, and then it slowly descends back to earth. Well, I looked at the kids, and their shoulders did droop a bit, but they looked at it and quickly figured out, we've got to get some of the weight off of this balloon. And so they set about ditching parts of the apparatus, and once again, they had it ready to go, and we were standing around, and the balloon started up, and out into space it went, and we finally breathed a sigh of relief and cheered. Well, the kids, of course, had their tracking devices, and at some point the balloon went so far away they couldn't track it anymore. So they went through the weekend, and they started the week, and they hadn't heard anything from their balloon. And they were starting to get really worried that they had lost the balloon and maybe all of that year's work. But then midweek, I'm in central office and we get a phone call. And it's the kids. Their app had alerted them that the balloon had landed. And so we cheered. Our rocket kids got into the cars with their parents and with their teacher and took off. They went all the way to the other side of Lake Anna until they found where the balloon had landed, and it appeared to be on a farm. And right on the gate, there was a sign that said, "No trespassing." So the kids had to quickly figure out, how do we find the farmer and get permission, which they did. And so they got onto the farm, they recovered their balloon and the apparatus. Mission accomplished. This was what was on their GoPro camera. Their balloon had indeed gone to the edges of the atmosphere. Mission accomplished. So here they are. What I like to think about, though, is that these kids, in accomplishing that mission, started out with the power of 1x2 and ended up having tremendous influence over an entire school, community, and now we have kids in some other schools that are saying, I want to do that too. So as superintendent, I have to tell you that there's nothing that's more important to me than thinking about what if we could have that kind of passion in all of our young people, all of our children. Because here's what I've learned, that when our kids get pathways to their hopes and dreams, when they get to pursue their interest and their passions, when they get a lot of choices about the things that they get to do, all of a sudden we find that we've got kids that are really exercising a sense of that their voice matters, that they have agency over their own learning, and that they can have influence beyond just their classroom. And that's what these kids did. So I'd love to be able to share with you the story of some of our other, what I call now, our Power of One student leaders that are doing similar kinds of things as we move forward. So here's Julian. I discovered Julian a little over a year ago because he was working in a brand new makerspace in one of our libraries. And I walked in and I started talking to Julian, and he was like, this is fabulous. He had always loved drones, and now he had a place where he could build drones at school. And he said, really, all you need is a little bit of duct tape. We learned that from the Apollo mission, some foam board, and a few devices that help you be able to construct your drone and get it up into the air and control it. So he'd been building drones in this makerspace. And he said to me that he and his principal had been talking about how he was feeling a little lonely, and he wanted to find out if there were other kids that might have an interest, because we don't actually have a drone curriculum. But here's what he did. He took his drones into the cafeteria at his high school one day during lunch, and he put them out. And all of a sudden, he had all kinds of kids coming over and expressing interest in drones. The next thing you know, he started a drone club. They're flying drones around in the gym and around the school grounds. And not only that, but the middle school kids right next door heard about it, reached out, and he's over there helping to build a drone club at the middle school. Now let me tell you about Julian's Power of One. He's become a student voice in the National Maker Movement and actually gave a keynote speech last year, or this last fall, excuse me, at the National Conference for Educators at the World Maker Fair at the New York Hall of Science. Out of a whole day of speakers, Julian is the one person, the only student and the one person who got a standing ovation from hundreds of educators from all over the country. How cool is that? Power of One. Here he is with his drone club. Then there's Iowati, another one of our seniors this year, who 2 years ago had an idea because she was concerned that middle school girls did not have a real understanding that engineering could be a great career, nor did she feel like that they knew you could have fun doing engineering. So she went to her teacher and pitched an idea. And the teacher said, why not? Within just a few weeks, she had put together a team of other females at her high school, and they had built out the idea of a bridge building camp for middle school girls. They pulled girls together in the summer, they got the materials, they organized the curriculum, and ended up going down along one of our walking trails and building a bridge over a small creek that would give access to community members that otherwise might not have it. Now, she's done this for 2 years, but when I talk to Iowati and I say, so what do you learn from this experience? She says, well, here's what my takeaways are. The girls learn that engineering's fun. More importantly, they learn about community service and the importance of giving back to the community. And thirdly, they've learned how to be leaders too. So what I love is when you see a leader like Iowati, it's not just her, but it's the influence that she has with other people in her community. And there she is with her bridge building girls. Now, I also want to share with you the story of Courtney. And Courtney is between Josiah in his orange shirt and Obed in his blue shirt. And Courtney is an actress, she's a dancer, she's a choreographer, but she's also a script writer. And this past fall, Courtney's peers built from her script a one-act play that they took to a state competition and ended up being one of the 6 best one-act plays in the state of Virginia. Here's what's really important, though. You might say, well, what makes Courtney unique? Courtney believes that drama is a pathway to teaching communities about social issues and engaging them in dialogue. So her one-act play was taken from a speech by Congressman and civil rights leader John Lewis, and it was called Necessary Trouble. And it was built around civil rights issues that can play out in classrooms in our schools as an effort to get kids engaged in dialogue. Not only did she perform it for her community and for the state, I now hear there's a high school in Arizona that's interested in performing her script. And there's her gathering. And then lastly, I want to tell you a little bit about Josh. Josh is a student that landed in a new program we have in our high schools called the Teams program. And Josh is self-described as a kid who's been living in foster care, has had real struggles in school, both the behavior and academics, and also has been somebody that's moved around a lot from school to school. And all of a sudden, you're seeing Josh standing on the stage right where our presidents stand to give a keynote address at the White House. So you might ask, well, how did Josh get to the White House? Josh was sitting in a group of our students who were working with a national student leader of a group called Student Voice, a student from a university in North Carolina. And he was talking about what high school transformation meant to him. A few weeks later, we get a call from this student leader who said, I'm part of a planning team at the White House. And there was this young guy, now he's a 9th grader at this time, a young guy whose voice was so powerful, we think he needs to come to the White House and be one of our keynote speakers. And Josh was at the White House this fall talking to economic, political, and educational leaders from all over the country about what he believes high schools should be for contemporary learners. Another power of one leader, influencing here and well beyond. So as I end, I want to tell you, these stories don't happen by chance. They happen because of educators who see a future adjacent to the possibilities of what we can build in schools today. Courtney, Josh, Julian, the Balloon kids, Iowati, represent all the kids in our schools in Charlottesville and Albemarle, the state and the nation. We've got poets and artists, we've got engineers and designers and nurses and doctors and lawyers, and I like to think a few teachers and principals and maybe even a superintendent out there. And those kids grow and develop when we are able to give them opportunities to see themselves as leaders in their schools, able to influence our community, and able to have their voices be seen as important to them and others. And when they do that, we're educating them for life, not for school, and they're moving from being power of one leaders in their schools to being powerful leaders of the world in their future. And I would just end by saying this: when we unleash the potential of our young people, allowing them to build their learning through a sense of agency and to find their powerful leadership voices through experiences that plumb their passion, the sky is no longer the limit, and we start to see the potential beyond the sky. I'd like for you to think about this. Imagine that in all of our schools. Thank you.